Hey everyone, my name is Tytykiller, and I do PoE speedrunning. I've been doing 4 stones in a limited trade environment, so I feel moderately qualified to talk about safe and secure league starters. I'm starting the video with the entire list here so you can pause, screenshot, leave, do whatever you like. No 10 minutes of BSing, no fluff. Let's get into it. Last league I said that Zerker was the best, with Volcanic Fissure Snaking and Earthshatter being up for choice. With the Volcanic Fissure Snaking nerfs, I really think that Earthshatter is going to be the most viable endgame option. Do not link Auto Exertion to Rallying Cry or Enduring Cry. The rest are fine. I personally wouldn't use more than 3 manual war cries. Late game this build can transition into Strength Stack Jug, one of the strongest builds in the game. For number 2 we have Cold Smite Slayer. This build was created by Root2, and I'll be maintaining it a bit this league. Personally, I think that getting some block nodes, as well as life recovery on block, on your shield, would make the build even stronger than it already is in late game. For early game, you'll still be playing Explosive Concoction. The nerfs mean that the skill will not carry to 2 stones, so you may be forced to farm or collab for your ult quality smite, and you will likely have to swap sooner than last league, which will end up being uncomfortable if you're unfamiliar with the build. At number 3 we have Righteous Fire Chieftain, which has slowly crept up to being one of the best builds in the game. Although Fire Trap got nerfed last league, this build was never meant to be a bosser. Part of the reason why I like this build as a starter is that later on it can transition into Cast When Stunned, which can farm Ultimatum, one of the only endgame farms left unnerfed. Follow Pox's website for any and all questions RF related. Do not go to his stream and ask a question without checking his website first. For number 4 we have Ignite Wave of Conviction Elementalist. This build has some sick progression all the way up to 2 stones and is extremely flexible. In my opinion, there are a lot of options for Elementalist this league. I also highly recommend keeping an eye out for Root2's Exsang Reap Elementalist. It looks super sick, even on scuffed gear. Last league, I rated Archmage Mana Man a lot lower than I probably should have. Asking Ben, he said that it belongs in the top 5 for sure, which is the same as what he said last league, so here it is. Honestly, not much has changed for previous leagues, and it's still a solid choice. I recently had time to test the self-cast Kinetic Blast Warden, which was a Russian build originally, and I was pleasantly surprised. It had more than enough damage, and I was able to complete Uber Elder and Maven with ease, although I did have to use trade. I would not recommend playing this build in SSF. I can also vouch for the Jungruin Witch version, which, upon first glance, appears to be better. Note that you will be dying a lot playing this build on Warden. If you've ever played KB before, you'll know that firing your projectiles against a wall is an insane damage multiplier, as it causes your explosions to overlap. I don't know the exact calculation, but it's going to feel a lot better to play wands this league. On top of that, one of the hardest things historically about playing wands has been getting an actual attack wand, since there are so many spell modifiers that roll on these. Newly introduced to 3.27 are the attack wand bases, and, while we don't know how they work, we can assume that they're going to work similarly to how war staffs do. Just use a woe essence, or a flat damage to attack essence, on an attack wand, and you should have a pretty good time. At number 7, Elemental Hit of the Spectrum Deadeye is completely unchanged. Do note that builds on the bottom right side of the tree saw a defensive nerf in the form of suppression, only decreasing spell damage taken by 40% instead of 50%. This will still be a top choice for farming Legion early on in the league, but it will still struggle to do high-end content. For my minion enjoyers, SRS Guardian or Necromancer is still a premier choice, alongside Zoomancer and some Spectre nonsense. The new Bloodlines introduced the Katarina Sensi, which Gazi seems pretty excited about, so keep an eye out for that. Holy Relic still seems like a good choice for late game, and you can transition into that with some currency on day 2. Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing saw some hefty nerfs, and I'm afraid to say it's still completely viable. Pathfinder ended up becoming the superior choice for people looking to do late game farming, while Slayer remained better for progression. The skill lost some flat damage and was compensated with increased damage when it consumes life flash charges, so I recommend Pathfinder, as you'll definitely notice the nerfs as a Slayer, and as Pathfinder, you'll barely even notice them. On the opposite side of nerfs, Cyclone actually received a really nice 20% damage buff at all gem levels. This build was already really good, so the increase is more than welcome. These builds typically scale Shockwave, as they're a Cyclone Shockwave build to deal their damage alongside Gen Cry, so it's not technically a 20% overall increase, but hey, a buff is a buff. I'm also including Blade Flurry Gen Cry in this tier as well. Next, Retaliate Gladiator saw no changes, so it's still here. It's a great build with good clear speed and amazing defenses. If you're wondering why I'm not including Elementalist here, it's because the early game and the mid game are questionable at best. I guess you could technically level an Ignite Wave of Conviction Elementalist, then transition over to this build, if that's your cup of tea. At number 12, I played a couple different versions of Reap Exsang Mines Trickster in the last patch, and I found that Fearless Dumbos was the best. Trickster got shot in the leg, but it's still able to walk just fine. It'll definitely suck going from 108% action speed down to 100%, but one step ahead retains its immunity to freeze. It will also suck to lose 20% spell suppress chance, but this archetype was already overperforming. At number 13, I tested Lightning Conduit Elementalist by ZyTV, and I really enjoyed it. Once you equip Impulses, the build ascends to a new height. Unfortunately, in order to cap spell suppress, the colors required to make the build are extremely annoying. On top of that, I didn't really feel like the build was anything noteworthy until Uber Lab. Definitely still viable for those who enjoy the 2-button playstyle. Next is Captain Lance's Blight of Contagion Hierophant. If you want to know anything else about the build, go ask him on stream. Why Hierophant and not Occultist? Go ask Lance. Why not Trickster? Go ask Lance. Not my build, not my problem. Okay, so technically, I have Explosive Air Champ and Winter Type Brand in this spot, and that's where they're at on the Twitter tier list. And they're still totally fine, but they're not great. This is going to be the first time ever that I include Flicker Strike on this tier list. If you know what you're doing, it's actually really sick. I enjoyed the build so much last league that I might play it again as a Strength Stack Flicker this league. Some notes that I like to get into are that Dual Strike of Ambidexterity and Viper Strike of the Mumbo remain top tier builds that require Cluster Jewels to function. I include them in the notes down here because people always ask about them. Yes, they're still strong. No, they are not stronger than alternatives in the early game. I am aware that Tuna has a Viper Strike of the Mumbo that functions even after normal lab, and while I might give it a try at some point, I can't really see how it's better than leveling and playing Peaconk. It's the same reason why Toxic Rain doesn't exist on this tier list. Peaconk is just straight up better. Lastly, I wanted to mention that Venom Gyre and Kerbalash might end up being some endgame powerhouse builds, but I am not confident in their ability to take on early game content, so play them at your own risk. If you're watching this when it goes up, I'm live right now on twitch.tv/Tytykiller. Log in, dude.